I get to do the job, the best job in the whole of van life. And maybe that's why there's all these flies about. There's 2 days worth of poo.
And we.
But mainly Jane's poo.
Oh, that's just rude.
Okay. Try not to look.
So as horrible as doing the toilet is, the big question is...
And it is horrible. Flies are still following me about now.
The question is, to poo or not to poo? Since getting our motorhome 9 months ago, we stayed all over the place. Campsites, CSs, car parks and airs. We've stayed in all sorts of places, all with different sorts of facilities. Without using our toilet to its full capacity, we wouldn't have been able to stay on any of these places. We wouldn't have had as much fun. We're in another dark and spooky car park, and we would have spent a lot more money. What are you doing in there?
What do you think? We love our van. It's our home away from home. And the bathroom is actually quite a nice place to be. But we use our bathroom to its absolute full capabilities, i.e. toilet. Lots of people don't, and lots of people do. But what we found is it saves us an absolute fortune, and it allows us access to some brilliant park-ups.
We've seen in other forums and videos that people use their loos in different ways, and that's fine. Some never use it at all, some use it just for number ones, and some only use it for number twos if they're caught out in an emergency. We wondered why.
There seems to be 3 reasons that people are averse to using the toilet. First one is smell. So I've got a range of chemicals here that we use. They're all green. We've only used the blue chemical once in Spain when that's all we could get, but the consensus is that the green eco-friendly chemicals are better. They don't contain formaldehyde. Here's a cheap one, like £8 for 2 litres. It'll probably do maybe 20 uses in the toilet. This is a more expensive one. That only gets 10, and I actually paid €19 for this in Luxembourg, so that's quite an expensive one. My favourite, if you can have a favourite toilet chemical, would be this one, the Elson Green. It's about 12 to 14 quid, depending what deal you can get online. And I like it because from the minute you put it into the cassette, your bathroom smells fresh, and it lasts longer than most of the other chemicals that I've tried. It's still fresh a couple of days later, whereas some of these cheaper ones like this, the freshness will diminish. I also like it because it will fit just in behind the door where the cassette is. So when you open the door to get to the cassette, this can stay handy, and it's something else that you're not having to store in one of your other lockers. And what I do with this is I keep an empty one like this, full of just clean water. So if we're ever at an air where we haven't got a hose pipe to top up the cassette to mix the chemical in, this just happens to have 2 litres, which is the amount that we put in the cassette to mix with chemical. We also, like many people, have tried the biological washing liquid or tablets, and they're okay in emergency. You just drop one in or pour some liquid in instead of using this chemical. Certainly a lot cheaper, but what I found is that I'd only really like to rely on one in an emergency for maybe just a day's use, an overnight's use. What I find is it's not smelling as fresh. It smells a bit like when you leave washing in the washing machine, damp, and you haven't pulled it out, a bit foisty, and that smell then just disappears. So I wouldn't really like to use them for a few days. Other people do, and other people have reported it works just as good, if not better than that, but it's just not been my experience. So maybe I need to try some different brands, but we've tried a few now and it's been mixed success.
So another reason people don't like using their onboard loo facility is because they've got to clean it, and that's your job. So what's it like cleaning the loo?
Look, it's not pleasant. It's a bit smelly. You're in an environment where you've got to be careful what you touch because you don't want to get contaminated with things, but you know, it's only for a couple of minutes just to empty and rinse.
I've noticed that Andrew's got a really strict cleaning regime.
I do. I empty and then put lots of water back into the cassette and empty, and I repeat that until I'm emptying clean fresh water, so it's rinsed completely through. Then I put my 2 litres of water clean back in, add my chemical, And at that point I use an antibacterial spray. So I use one of these, liberally spray all over the outside of the cassette. I then give it a wipe over so I know that it's not been contaminated on the outside. Put the cassette back in. I also use that bacterial spray to spray my gloves. I then use hand wipes to clean my hands, and the toilet's really good. I will use this stuff maybe every 6 or 8 weeks. You add it to the cassette, you add water, and then usually on its way home or to another site where it will agitate and clean the inside of the cassette. We also use it on the waste tank as well, and then we dump it when we get to wherever we're going. And the toilet inside then is super clean. There's also a way of removing the top part of the cassette to get inside, and when you remove that, all the sliders and all the mechanisms on shore, so you can use a scrubbing brush. Not a pleasant job, but you can do that to get rid of any trapped bits of toilet paper. So we use the cheapest, thinnest that we can, rather than paying a fortune for dedicated cassette toilet paper.
And some people don't like using the toilet on board just because it's on board and it's maybe embarrassing, or they're worried about hearing noises. We've not found any trouble doing that.
I did think that you were learning to play the trombone once.
You're so rude. But, you know, people use site facilities because they're more comfortable with that, and that's fine. But we just find it's more restrictive. And of course, if you're going to use your onboard loo, you've got to find somewhere to empty it. This is exciting. This is the most unusual Elson Point we've been to. In Europe, it's really easy to find Elson points, because there are plenty of airs and camper stops that have good facilities. And we can find places to empty our loo using apps such as Park for Night. But in the UK, we've found this a lot more difficult, as the UK just isn't geared up for motorhomes, and camper vans the same.
However, it's going to get easier because there are more and more public car parks now being installed with service points, and quite a few more motorhome stopovers popping up all across the country. You could also try one of the clubs. The Camping and Caravan Club, for example, allows you access to certain club sites for 3 hours for £7. That allows you to use showers and, of course, emptying your loo. Or you could do what we do. So we've been taking advantages of rallies and meets and temporary holiday sites, which are really cost effective. £7, £10. Really, really good. We hope you've enjoyed a few minutes and an insight into our toilet. It's a light-hearted look at quite a serious subject. Thanks for watching and getting this far. The original question was, to poo or not to poo?
And we are to poo.
Poo.